Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Zerg and the fastest player in the game in the blue. It's Reynor. Up against the returning Protoss, one of the most entertaining from Korea, the loose cannon. It's Zoun. A best of 7 Zerg versus Protoss. And I don't know what sort of strategies these two remarkably aggressive and unpredictable players are going to lay down. But there is one thing I'd like you to help me bring up before we get started. The amount of likes on this video. And maybe even subscribes. And Jimmy, no cringing. 1,532 likes on this video on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As Reynor pulls the queen off to politely yet firmly ask the Adept to leave, but the Adept is always throwing mad shade. Will scout. I believe Reynor mined just enough gas to convince the probe that he was actually going for a much more, well, mildly more gas-oriented build. But as soon as the probe was driven away, he stopped mining in order to maximize the minerals. But now, Zoun on the other side, chrono boosting a Void Ray. We'll see if he follows up with an Oracle, but will deny any sort of early scouting. Though seeing the Void Ray in and of itself is quite an important thing. Reynor with only one Overlord heading across the map, knowing it's not just a possibility but a probability. And the Void Ray lights up to burn out the Overlord, thus inspiring my public service announcement of the prismatic alignment only doing more damage to armored units. So even though it's a larger, thicker, more luxurious beam, it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing more damage. Emotionally, yes. But if I see another player, and sometimes even like semi-pro players, charge up their Void Ray to kill queens or Zerglings, yes, it's intimidating, but it actively hurts you. Then again, that's never stopped Protoss before, so. Armored units including Overlords, Corruptors, Roaches, not Queens, not Ravagers. Buildings, usually armored, but this has been a public service announcement. Oracle, and a... Okay, wait. That's a second Void Ray. So, that means most of my filler commentary about early game Zerg versus Protoss is now null and void, as one more Void is in the production tab, but he's just getting a Twilight and Forge behind. Alright. It's not some sort of fleet beacon, it's not some sort of rush to sky toss. Zoun coming back and showing us, well, what if you just built more Void Rays? They shoot up, they shoot down, what's not to love? It's like a Stalker that doesn't have to be nearly as fancy. It is a bit more expensive and vulnerable, but certainly an original build, or at least an original style we don't see very often, mostly because the Void Ray is a more expensive and less effective version of the Oracle in many ways. Oracle's not as good. Well, they can't kill Overlords, but they have higher DPS when activated, especially with the energy recharge ability being so prevalent. But the Void Rays are just sauntering by, and, Brenda, hello? Do you see that? Are those hallucinated? No! We might lose! Susan, is that a reference? Oh, what the huck, Susan? Zerglings try to come into the third, and there's plenty to deal with it. Okay, so he just saw the 2 Void Rays flying home, as well as the 3rd Void Ray at the 3rd base. So Reynor now knows he's dealing with 3 Void Rays. I have no follow-up to that because I'm not sure what to make of it. But Reynor makes as many drones as possible. He's 6.5 minutes in. Okay. 82 drones and counting. The Queens, more than a match for the Void Rays. We'll drive them away. It seems Reynor is going to try to macro his way out of this situation, knowing that any sort of early game attack against these Void Rays is unlikely to be successful. You could stroll across the map with the Queens, maybe even bring them in Overlords. By the time they get across King's Cove, it's very likely Zoun will have more than enough defenses to deal with it. So, Okay, he's at 88 drones. He's building 10 more. We are 7 minutes in the game. Reynor. Right now, opening up his DronelyFans account. You can check out mine if you'd like and subscribe. But 99 drones. And he takes out the Oracle with relative ease. Not really relative, it just kind of died. I don't know why he flew past it like that. Did he spot the... He did not spot the hive. He did spot the infestation pit, so... Zoun with... This army's all meat and no potatoes. To quote an illustrious commentator, myself. As he just has a handful of zealots, 3 void rays, an archon, and a sentry. A very old school style of showing up, knocking on the door, Reynor getting his production tab up to answer, and by the time he gets off the couch, the army leaves. Now, usually I'd do some filler commentary about now he's limiting the drone count. But Reynor hit 100 drones before the 8-minute mark. Alright, Reynor maybe needs to limit his own drone count, but he's not. He's building 5 more. This is gratuitous. At best, that's the most generous interpretation. Meanwhile, the tech tree is just growing. Everybody taking out their Prima strategy guide and treating it as a 100% achievement list, as there's a fleet beacon on the way alongside, well, metaphorically, an Ultralisk cavern, 2 more Stargates, adrenal glands, Overlord speed, Baneling speed, Blink, +2, a partridge and a pear tree. There's not too much left that we don't have, though very conspicuously for Reynor, no spires. He has yet to be inspired to have some anti-air options that aren't queens, and maybe a Sporcher or 2. It will eventually be Skytoth. Zoun with some small zealot counterattacks. He delays another hatchery, which I feel those zealots were more scouting than real damage there. Just making sure he has a beat on what Reynor's going for. Though I doubt he'll expect something like Ultralisk drop harass, which a strong strategy in the past, but practical. There's 1 Ultra on the way, 6 Dropper Lords. A mothership is in production, tectonic destabilizers for the Tempest, 2 Spires, chitinous plating, +3, +2. Or just assume they have everything. Or will in a minute or 2. And then from here, we'll have to see. But 6 Dropper Lords of Zerglings loaded up as Operation Overlord has begun to land on the beaches of the Protoss here in King's Cove. Those 2 Spires still quite far off. The air army is still just 3 Void Rays, but is soon to be a mothership. They're Templar with energy. I believe the Dropper Lords were spotted. Void Rays are moving into position to block out for the natural. But so far, neither player making a dramatic move. Almost a no-rush 10-minute game. Though the lukewarm war is about to heat up. Reynor with 5,300 minerals, 1,900 gas in the bank, but the Overlords are spotted by the Void Rays, who will light up and pop one like an overripe tomato, the other one like a regularly ripened tomato, and the other tomatoes will glide away. Not fast enough. Wait, does he have flux veins? I expect to see flux veins momentarily. Maybe after tectonic destabilizers on the fleet beacon. But Zoun is still battening down the hatches and making sure he's secured against this. The Overlords will be taken out, but it appears Reynor prepared for it, has plenty others. Tries an attack at the front, but Stasis will shut him down. Now it comes down... Well, here's the limiting factor. It's not the minerals, it's not the gas. It's the fact that without some crazy sort of spore crawler extractor trick action, you are limited to 200 supply. So right now, Reynor's army is only 90 army supply. He's adding some ultras in. And since we're referencing it multiple times today, Hydra once said, when I'm really far ahead and I want to lose, I build ultras. Now, as I always have to put the caveat, ultras have gotten buffed relatively since that day, but against Archons, Tempests, and Immortals, I am not personally convinced that Ultralisks are going to be the game-winning move. But I'm always excited to see it. So, 8 infestors. Neural Parasite is on the way. Void Rays just melting through roaches. Honestly, at this point, the roaches are more of a liability. They are some of the worst supply you could possibly have against an Archon Immortal Tempest army. At least the Ultras have a chance to maybe close the distance and chew up some Templar, which I imagine not a very hearty meal, but maybe like cotton candy? Maybe more bland. Moving on. 3 hatcheries on the way. Couple expansions, I think a macro hatch in there. Just taking the rest. +3 ground weapons and +1 air for Zoun, but he's getting 4 more upgrades, pretty much the rest of them. Meanwhile, Reynor just finished +1 flyer attacking Carapace. Still, both sides kind of dancing around the prospect of a direct engagement because they both have armies that could easily obliterate their opponent on their own side of the map. If Reynor's able to sit back with Queens and Spore Crawlers against this and surround with Ultras and some Infestors, he's going to be doing an amazing job. Meanwhile, attacking into stasis, cannons, shield batteries in any sort of SimCity setup designed to keep the Zerg from trundling over, well, that could be an absolute disaster for Reynor. So now there's a Shrine to Dark on the way. The Ultra count has grown. He's got 5 of them, 8 Infestors, 80-something workers apiece as well. But at some point, well, the Zerglings have delayed one of the next side. There's burrowed Zerglings at 2 of the other locations. But Zoun seems perfectly happy to sit back. And we're only 13 minutes in, so he's not mining out that quickly. DT's now being warped in. Zergling counterattacks. That DT gonna start slicing through. Archons come back to defend. And, well, we'll just pop. The Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. The Tempest will fight each other, but the feedbacks! Oh, 0 out of 5! Terrible reviews on those Infestors, and the emotional damage is overwhelming. Some of them in the red HP, almost no energy. Fungal will catch. Those Tempests actually survive their domestic dispute, realizing their differences. The Ultras will just get completely exploderated. And you know what the problem was? You know what was the issue? Is that he didn't build enough of them. Reynor is building 12 Ultralisks, which is the most dramatic way he could possibly throw this game. Well, there's 1 Dark Templar. The Zerglings will take it out. 11 Ultras on the way. They're gonna be popping out of eggs at point-blank range. How many Immortals are left? Oh, here we go. The Ultras are coming down. The Immortals are blasted through. He needs some Zerglings underneath to make it that much harder to target fire. The Immortals are getting chewed up as well. There's a Spine Crawler at the back. Zoun, 35. What's going on over here? The DTs and Zealots slaughtered dozens upon dozens of drones. Reynor's down to 42 drones. He's out of gas. He's gonna lose the hatchery. 17 Corruptors on the way. He's lost 8 Ultralisks, but now he needs an anti-air army. It's a disaster for the Italian Stallion, as he's been gutted by Zoun. He just drove right through to the heart of the swarm. Takes out 3 bases, dozens of drones, and Reynor, a lot of those Ultras are already badly bruised. He takes no damage at home. What did you just do? He kills one of his stalkers to free up supply for more Immortals. Reynor did not kill enough of his units, so he's killing his own. The only saving grace for Reynor is he lost so many drones, his army supply is massive. Just like his Ultralisk. Just like his bank. And just like your mother. And +3 weapons is on the way for the air army for Zoun. With Stalkers at the front will deny another base. The creep spread. You can see him parting the purple sea there. As it's very clear which way Zoun attacked earlier. But Reynor, He has a Bugatti army on a Prius budget right now. He tried to build that sort of tower defense wave of units. Oh, the Ultras just chewing through. They're quite unwieldy. You take it out. Yes, he'll lose the Stalkers, but honestly, I'm not entirely convinced he wanted them in the first place. He warps in 6 Dark Templar, bunch of High Templar. In fact, one of the few Protoss players acknowledging the fact that both Dark Templar and High Templar can merge to become one happy Archon. Now, after the Great War, back years ago, the Protoss Dark Archons and just Archons, which in and of itself was a little questionable. But now, there's just our cons, comrade. So, oh my, this looks like a direct strike battle as the Ultras, Neural Parasite, borrow some of them. There's a recall, but if you've Neural Parasited, you can't recall enemy units. And Reynor grabs some of the... Now, very awkwardly, there's literally no... I said literally no anti-air. Well, I was saying it in my head. I didn't say it out loud, because that would have been dumb, as there are 20 Corruptors. Oh no, another Dark Templar! Zeratul gets it again! 25 kills on that DT! Reynor at 33 drones. There's no home to go back to. You can only go forward. The Ultras, but the cannons and the gauntlet here storms onto the Ultralisk. More Immortals on the way. He has enough Corruptors to wipe things out of the sky. Stalkers warped in behind the secondary wall of cannons. More Neural Parasites. Those Protoss units helping out immensely. But the Ultra count is finally getting thinned out. The Neural Parasites wear off. The Corruptors are trying to... Just a GG well played out of Reynor. I appreciate Reynor's commitment to the Ultras, the commitment to the pure Zerg army, the commitment to not playing a 38-minute Infestor Broodlord game, but at the end of the day, it costs him. That first engagement, he just couldn't rebuild his army. And from there... oh, how appropriate. We're going to game 2 on Ultra Love. And if there's one player... who clearly does love them, well, he's gonna be in the blue. But Zoun takes game 1 quite decisively. At no point did it look like Zoun was struggling. The only time he was struggling, really, was when he had to fight his own units. But Reynor, I think a bit of a throwaway game. You play that sort of attrition, wave defense style of Zerg, that 300 supply Zerg on a map like that. If the game goes on too long, Zoun is just going to wear you down with recalls between the Mothership and the Nexus. We've seen it before. We've seen how Cyril handles it. And to be honest, I don't think anyone but Cyril is willing or able to attempt that sort of attrition style. Honestly, the Neural Parasite getting a lot more done than I expected, but still a fraction of what it was needed to actually turn the game around. Zoun just simply took no economic damage. The Ultra's a very dramatic, expensive waste. I was trying to sugarcoat it somehow, but that just brought me back to the cotton candy thing, and moving on. Well, a dramatic game 1. We'll see if Zoun sticks to that defensive style. The Void Race, now, it's a blessing and a curse for Zerg, especially in a series, a longer series, is the Protoss will likely try several different strategies, several different styles, try to catch you off guard, or keep you guessing, just in general. But the more games you have, the more time you have to adapt as well. Getting caught off guard in 1 or 2 matches doesn't spell the end of the series. So that Void Ray, that triple Void Ray defense slash, or just triple Void Ray opener, I kind of doubt we'll see it again, but it's on the table now. I don't even think it really did that well. It ended up denying the Overlord drop. Reynor never got any sort of counter. He maybe clawed a Nexus with Zerglings once or twice, but never got into the base. No Nidus, no Lurkers. We kind of skipped past the Lurker phase of the game. It just didn't happen because Zoun already... That doesn't even block. Yeah. He just cancels it because it doesn't even block anyway. Alright. Stargate on the way. We'll see what comes first. Oracle. Stalker behind as well. Now, constantly checking with the Adept. He knows the time. For those keeping notes back at home, usually it's around 3:35 to 3:40 that speed will finish. Every player at this level has a beat on that timing. It might be a little bit later, might be a lot later, like last game, but that is an average timing for someone who's going for speed early. So as long as the Adept is headed back across the map by about 3:40, you're relatively safe to move out. The Queens will drive back the Oracle for now. Ends up getting just one kill. Gonna work on the larva, but he actually starts a drone before the larva can get burnt away. The egg has more HP. Third base, he's gonna go to the north side with it. Lay it down, slap down a pylon nearby. Not particularly early, but definitely not late. Middle of the road. Especially when it comes to potentially following up with a Twilight Council and a Forge. Two more guesses. Energy Recharge, Shady Bunch heading out alongside those Oracles, who will cover any sort of big Zergling swell that looks to take out the Adepts. And with that extra Energy Recharge, potentially clear out creep spread as well. The Zerglings will get on top of the Adepts now, just trying to head in. The Spore Crawler getting some good hits in. Zerglings will be able to box in the Adepts, so not exactly the ideal execution. Adept actually shades into the main, almost gets another one, but overall, Oracle gets away just barely. Overall, I'd call that a mild failure out of Zoun. He loses 4 Adepts, doesn't really get many drone kills. Is forced back to deal with a potential Zergling counterattack. And doesn't have a quick follow-up behind. So Reynor, already droning up. He's going to have a lair relatively soon. +1 ranged attack is on the way. I believe he's going to angle towards the Hydralisk. Almost certainly, considering he doesn't have a Roach Warren. No, it's for the Queen one. +1 for the Queens only. Which isn't the worst idea, but +1 melee is certainly better in that scenario. Now, will he go double Hydra down? We don't see many players go that direction, but as the Hydra upgrades are usually so quick that it's not really worth it, but... Oh, he had a Roach Warren the whole time. Well, that would explain that then. He got the Roach Warren so early. Probably suspecting some sort of Adept shenanigans. But when it doesn't come to pass, or at least nothing more than that early pressure, well, a proxy gate with a proxy pylon combining with the Blink Stalkers, Zoun clearly looking to lay on some pressure. Now, will Reynor crumble under it, or be able to withstand? Base under attack. Stasis in an awkward spot, catches a Queen and 2 Roaches. Could be much worse. Roach speed still pretty far off. +1 ranged attack about to complete. The Zergling starting to trigger the Stasis Ward. Still plenty of energy back here. Zoning things out. Bit of a misfire on the stasis as it re-triggers on the same Zergling. That's how that behavior works. Queen about to pop out of stasis. Just goes for the roaches. Has enough to target roaches down one by one. Meanwhile, the Oracle's behind. There's no stasis behind this. Roaches have speed done. Knocked back to 4 bases. Oracles light up. But still, more corrosive bowels thrown out. Blinks back the majority of the stalkers. The Oracle's running thin on energy. And Queen's out in front, holding for now. There's no further tech on either side. Just more pylons for Zoun. More roaches and lings. Now finally getting another 4th base as Reynor. 71 to 63 workers. Big Zergling counter. Reynor feeling confident at the moment. So has to be careful. You don't want to start losing the war of attrition. Big Zergling counter into the 3rd. The Stalker's still blinking back. A stasis gonna try to catch a critical mass, but 10 probes dead to the Zergling counterattack. And he's not done yet. A few more Stalkers warped in, but the Zergling count is high enough that he can just overrun them. The 3rd base will be gutted, and the Roaches and Ravagers are still holding back at home. And wait, okay, he didn't get into that. He just killed all the probes at the 3rd base. 19 probes in total. The Roaches and Ravagers starting to thin out, but not nearly quickly enough, as a flood of Zerglings and even more Roaches are on the way. And the Queen out in front, taking some extra... Karen, you're in front this time! Well, you're always first to complain. I don't want to hear any complaints about this. Another Zergling counter. Zoun just kind of ignoring the damage these are doing. I guess he's warping in back at home, but there is no follow-up here. He needs to get something done. Now that the 4th base is completed for Reynor, he's going to have the production, and he still has the economy. He's got a 70 supply lead. The Zerglings... Oh, that pylon placement is actually amazing. Only 2 Zerglings can attack it at once. So, isn't going down yet. I think he's warping in a couple more to defend. Picks off another Ravager. Some charge isn't even done. Not even started for Zoun, which means it's a long way off. The Zergling counters continue to be effective. Now Roaches are the next step as he wants to just break through the wall. There's a single stasis out here. If he can... The rocks are taken down. I'm not sure by whom. Stalker's trying to hold, but Reynor. Burrow and tunneling claws on the way. If he can't go through them, he'll go underneath them. Right now, Reynor in... Oh my, 11 drones dead. The Oracle's finally finding damage. One is taken out. Another one badly bruised. And does he target fire? Okay. 12 drones dead, though, to the Oracles, which means the economies are a little closer than maybe they should be, but tunneling claws still only halfway done. Quite a long upgrade. The Roaches and Ravagers may be able to just bust this down well beforehand. Guardian shield from the sentries. The Roaches are just He knows they're there, but there's only the Oracle for detection. No robotics facility, no cannons. We'll unburrow the Roaches, but he's into the natural. He's still hitting the 3rd. The probes are being slaughtered. And there's nothing left for Zoun. Reynor will be taking game number 2 and tying things up. Zoun started the attack, but Reynor's going to end it. Are we going to keep going? Can't. Would look hilarious if you could burrow move the Ravagers, but... Is there a dream? No. No. Reynor could very likely just A-move and will come up against his ability to just kill all the buildings. So. But some credit to Zoun for keeping it together. There's a small chance he doesn't... If Reynor was a little bit stingier on the drones, and there's literally pixel perfect blink micro, no. We gotta launch quite a long death animation, but surprise! And, oh, he was trying to wait out the blink. And Zoun, I think he knew it was happening and didn't want to give him the satisfaction, which is quite a move in and of itself, but a decisive victory for Reynor. He turns it around in game 2, and now we got a series. Zoun unable to find the damage. We're going into the Reef, though. Abyssal Reef. A map much more, much better suited to that style we saw in game 1. Zoun in the top left in the red. Reynor in the bottom right. For those of you, well, not watching, but instead listening. Shout out to my blind viewers. Kind of have to, but Zoun not sending the probe directly across. It's a bit of a split now on whether or not you go for the probe block. It's kind of map dependent, depending on the rush distance, how quickly. Reynor, quite an advocate. Notice how Reynor's building his hatchery before even getting a second overload. He does not like getting that base blocked, and it will cut into the economy a bit, but it guarantees, well, pretty much guarantees. I think guarantees, actually. Like, physically, the probe could not glide across the map. Visual aids. The probe could not get across the... Even if you send it out at the beginning of the game, pull it off the line before it mines a single mineral, it cannot get across the map before you lay down that hatchery at that timing. You do sacrifice a few extra drones, like 18 to 14 workers. The income pretty heavily in Zoun's favor at the very start. But the safety and security of having a hatchery as opposed to having to take your third clearly outweighs that for the Italians down. Like and subscribe so I can afford more plushies to demonstrate important StarCraft related points. Okay. Carbot. I'm gonna need an Oracle plushie. I don't know how we're gonna do that one. And also, obviously, a Queen plushie. Inject me, Brenda. Jimmy, edit that out. But as we go into the Reef, game 3. Probe stole a few minerals. The Zerglings are gonna come accost it. Give us back our minerals. I literally can't, is what the probe would say if it had a mouth. No, I doubt it, actually. It'd probably say something obscene that would get me demonetized. That's just a science fact, but... Reynor chasing. Stargate, of course. Hard walling right off the bat. The very top of the ramp. Overlord will spot it. Nobody really hiding anything there. Now throwing his shade. Void Ray first. Alarm bells won't be ringing quite yet, but once that Void Ray lights up on the Overlord. Now, was it a trend? Was it a one-off build, or is that just how he likes to play it on maps like this? I'm interested to see whether Zoun invests more heavily in the Void Rays. It really does feel like one of those you can use once, but that kind of expends its value. Builds the Oracle behind, and we'll see that as well. Overlord speed. Wow, Overlord speed. Huh. He got in his head for sure. Overlord speed is... It might sound like a great scouting tool, but spending 100 gas. Literally, his first 100 gas is going to Overlord speed. So, all that's going to give him is information on what's coming up next. that obviously you want Overlord speed at some point. It's one of those upgrades you should probably be getting sooner rather than later. But as the first investment, that's a pretty clear message. And now a second Void Ray. It's happening again. Drone dodges into a Spore Crawler. Revelation. Now, the Overlord will very likely... It's going to see the second Void Ray. Obviously, the Void Ray making its presence very known. And oh no, an Oracle at the back! Reynor will see the Twilight and the Forge behind. But the Oracle kills 4 more drones, so... A bit of a mixed bag. He now knows what he's dealing with. And will we see a different response? There's the Roach one just to block out the shades, which Zoun realizes and cancels at the last moment so he doesn't get trapped. Charge and +1 on the way. I believe this is what we saw on King's Cove as well. So, not splitting from the build too much. The charge lots, very helpful in general and relatively light on the gas. Well, we really only need charge, so... +1 ground weapons on the way. 2 more gas geysers at the third, quite early on. Though Reynor's also going the same direction. Hydralisk Den now on the way. This will actually be our first Hydras. Right? Yes, in the series so far. This is a message from the Hatchery Owners Association. All right? You can't be shining your fancy beams over here. I don't care. There are rules. There are rules you have to... Brenda... I don't think the rules apply to the Protoss. We'll make them apply. All right, in this life or the next. It doesn't matter what you say, Karen. But Brenda, I think that's just Gladiator. It was poorly paraphrased. But yes, that was what I was going for. This has gone on too long. All right, this bit is becoming a bite. It's too much. How are you going to segue back into Void Rays and Storm? And Dropper Lords on the way. As Zoun, again, puts together his defenses. He hardens his turtle shell. And slaps some spikes on it as well. More like a porcupine than a turtle here. Porcupines with a bit more aggressive potential for the most part. And speaking of spines, we got lurkers. Lurker Den infestation pit. A bunch more drones on the way. As I think Reynor already... Oh, what is this? There's a few Hydras, a few Lings. Ready to drop in. And Reynor gonna try the 3-pronged aggression, but Storm is already completed. +1 ground weapons. For Protoss, that makes those Zealots incredibly effective against Zerglings. It only takes 2 swipes instead of 3 to take them out. One of the biggest damage boosts in interactions. The drop being attempted, but there's already cannons. So he didn't drop anything out of the Dropper Lords. So Zoun is just assuming it's Banelings. Honestly, I think making a couple Dropper Lords and just sending them out is worth it. Even if you can't afford to send anything in them. As at this stage of the game, clearly Zoun very afraid of the Banelings. He doesn't have enough army supply in order to cover all his bases simultaneously, so he has to pull the probes away, while still worrying about a potential attack down the front. Hive is on the way. Reynor has... He flirted with the idea of going for the full attack, but is clearly gearing up for a more advanced sort of tech composition. Meanwhile, the fleet beacon is lit, as Zoun again heads for the Armada. The base down the center, pre-cancelled against this army. Another meaty army here. He's got 4 high-energy Templar, an Archon, an Immortal, some charge lots, but the Lurkers are revealed. Lurker range has begun. And now Reynor's hand has been shown. In fact, I don't know how many of the Hydras were spotted before either, but the creep is getting cleared up. No air weapons yet for Zoun, which may be an oversight. We have an awkward engagement here. No +1 melee. Those zealots are so good against the Zerglings. Wait, the Zerglings will win, right? Not if they run away, but... Come back here! Bob, are you insane? Yes! Adrenal glands on the way, Lurker range, Overseer speeding through, has enough energy for contaminate right meow. And he contaminates the mothership production, which also negates that chrono boost as well. So a delay on the end game composition from Zoun, but he's not going to be able to shut it down entirely. Reynor's at 87 drones. He only has 4 bases. That center hatch, almost no creep spread at all. So entirely reliant on the unit composition and outmaneuvering Zoun, which time is running out to do that reliably. You know, the Hydra is just fighting straight up. The Templar gliding along rather slowly. The Storm's coming up, and Zoun getting whittled down quickly here. Adrenal gland's about to complete the wall on the high ground, caught between a rock and a hard place. Are many of those Hydras, but the Lurkers will just slice right through. The Tempests come out just in time. The Hydra count has dwindled, and there's almost no anti-air. The force field's on the ramp. There's no Ravagers to break them. The Storm's washing away everything. And the Void Ray will light up, and Lurkers are also armored units. And that means they're able to take them out so quickly. No armor upgrades for anyone. 5 more Dropper Lords on the way, but what is the intent? There's gonna be a mothership completed. Reynor really doesn't have that much in the bank right now. Mothership has arrived, gliding across. And if Reynor doesn't set it up correctly, the mothership with cloaking could easily negate any sort of attack, especially with Dropper Lords. Tectonic destabilizers on the way, +1 air weapons done. No more upgrades for Reynor in production. He's got adrenal glands and +2 ranged attack. That's it. Just started +3 range. He's going to be going Hydras as his anti-air option. Yeah, he's got a Spire on the way, but there's not nearly enough gas to go Corruptors now. Does not go for Hydra Lunge, that Hive Tech upgrade of questionable use against this sort of composition. Meanwhile, a mass Lurker drop is headed for the natural. I'm not sure if he spotted it, but the Zerglings are overrunning the front line. Revelation on the Lurkers, but more Lurkers, and this is the opportunity. Here we go. The Lurkers slicing through the probes. The army entirely comes back to defend, and that leaves an opportunity. But Zoun with the Templar will soften up some more of the Lurkers. 18 probes dead thus far. The Lurkers eventually getting cleared out alongside the Overlords from Reynor, which he is going to have to replace. But 33 probes. More Templar will be taken down. The Lurkers are spread out enough that the Storms are just not going to find the value. But there's enough detection to clear things up. 34 probes dead. But what's the tally in total? Zoun killing 4,600, 1,800 in resources. Reynor, 42,800. No bases taken out, but the Armada remains intact. And that is the key issue. The Void Brace, all 3 of them still, at least for now. The Mothership and the Tempest. Lurkers will burrow at the 3rd base. The Templar required. Storms are very important here. Hit more Zealots than Zerglings. But Reynor's now supply blocked. He's getting Hydra Lunge. The Hydra's trying to slither away. And they are faster than the Templar, but not by so much they can really engage. We're going into something of a base trade scenario, as the Lurkers are going to take out the 3rd base. The 4th base is getting sliced up as well. But the Tempest with tectonic destabilizers are just chewing through the hatcheries, alongside, of course, the Immortals and the Archons on the ground. The Lurkers continue to scamper through, but a couple get caught. as Reynor continues to try to drag Zoun back. There's barely anything back at home to defend. He has a few queens, a couple spores, but otherwise, it's a full-on base trade. 15 corruptors are on the way. The last gasp for Reynor. The storms are helping out a lot, obviously here. +3 missile attacks for Reynor and +2 air weapons for Zoun. As Reynor abandoning his bases. Zoun down to just one outlying base with a lurker on the high ground. Neither player with reliable mining at this point. The corruptors are out. Reynor is coming back home to defend. There should still be a Nexus recall for Zoun. So he's retreating to a position that he knows is safer. It's very clear that Reynor's coming back to try to surround him, and he's not going to let that happen. But some of the Templar get caught. A huge pick-off by the Zerglings. But the Templar go into a happy marriage with an obliterating storm that just clears out every Zergling so they can live happily and angrily in power overwhelmingly ever after. Zoun balls up again and has consolidated his forces, his army supply, far outstripping Reynor. Reynor has almost no income, whereas Zoun maintained that center base, but has barely any probes. The Corruptor count, 15. He's got 15 Hydras as well, but there's enough storms to blow them all away. Honestly, the counterattacks in the base trade doing a lot more than I thought it would, but still coming up short when it comes to forcing Zoun into an awkward position. The drones, he might have enough of them. The caustic spray from the Corruptors, praying his way through the base. The drones will retreat from an unfinished hatchery, and Reynor's running out of resources entirely. The Corruptors cannot recall. He can't just send a... He recalls to his Nexus with some of the Zealots to get him out of a troublesome situation and help out. It's an outright full-on base trade, and Zoun just went. He just recalled with his Nexus. So, a Dark Shrine just finished, which is kind of an important point. There's a distant dream, a whisper of one at best. He might be able to base trade, but honestly, it's not gonna work. I don't think so. Both players now supply blocked, but there's still cannons and shield batteries. Nexus recall is about a minute out. Reynor's trying to... he's rebuilding the tech tree from the stump. Probes going into the corner. 22 probes against 20 drones. He's just looking for the pickoffs. A lot of the remaining probes. The mothership is unyoinkable. So, I believe the Corruptors were just spotted. And they both expanded to opposite quarters in this base trade. Well, the Vipers will be spotted. That Observer, Revelation, Changelings. But it is 15 Corruptors, 8 Hydras, 7 Lurkers, and 2 Vipers against the Death Ball. There's an Oracle and 3 Observers. If those go down, then maybe the Lurkers and the Corruptors can do the rest, but he's playing... This is kind of the... Wow, he gets the Oracle and 2 Tempests, which is an amazing start. There's a couple spores as well to help out, but... They're still... Those are full energy Templar. The storm's coming. There's not that many buildings to consume for the Vipers, which is a real concern. He's rebuilding... Oh, the Tempests are just shelling the Lurkers. And he just kills the spores. Gonna dive on the mothership. The time warp at point blank, and GG! Zoun now claims 2. Reynor again coming up short, dealing with the Golden Armada. And the storms ripping through everything else. Well, clear what Reynor's weakness is. We'll see if he can either play around it or shore it up. Now, we've gotten... I'm going to go ahead and assume that even in a best of 7, there are 9 maps in the pool. I'm going to assume Neon Violet Square was the first one that Reynor vetoed. So I doubt we'll see it even in a full series. So that, if Neon Violet Square is vetoed, then that is the end of the most turtley maps in the pool. El Dorado is a maybe, but not really, because there's still so many opportunities for aggression. So, we're on ley lines for Game 4, where there's a lot more chance to actually attack into your opponent. Though, you get into a good enough position as Protoss, and it's very likely you can make your way up to that mothership. Honestly, Reynor almost... It feels almost like a mental block. Then again, as a 1/3 Zerg myself, some of my best friends are Zerg as well. But once you see a mothership and High Templar with energy, it's not something you want to fight. I don't blame Reynor for trying to go around it, but it actually felt like he had the army to potentially engage and play that kind of war of attrition. He did a remarkable job with the base trade, but Zoun pulled back at exactly the right time. He got as much damage as he needed to do without being vulnerable. Played it very careful, very patient. And that patience pays off with a 2-to-1 lead. Some mineral flirting to start. We haven't seen any queen drop builds yet, or Nidus. Multiple attempts of Overlord drop, but they've come up kind of impotent. I still want to see just sending in the Dropper Lord with nothing. The Intimidation Lord. I feel like we're heading towards that. We may see it by the end of the series. Like hallucinating an Oracle in early PvP. Sometimes you'll just give him to run the probes away. Just the chance it could be real is something you can't take. Adept Chrono. Stargate, of course. What's it gonna be, Zoun? Now I'm interested. The Void Ray has been a bellwether so far. Void Ray means Armada, whereas the Oracle, a more aggressive tactic as a starter. Now, you don't want to become predictable, but that becomes a mind game in and of itself. This is now the second time he's going for the Oracle. Is he going to follow it up with Blink immediately, or do we mix it up here? There aren't too many options, especially with energy recharge and the ability to just slap 100 energy into that Oracle. There's really no early game attacks for Zerg at all that can work. That's a very slight exaggeration, but the fact that an Oracle will have enough energy to burn for like 2 minutes. I'm actually, if you put 100 energy on the Oracle and light it up immediately, I'm pretty sure it can burn until just about energy recharge comes off cooldown again. And then you'll have less because you had the starting energy, but it makes it narrows the possibilities for Zerg in the early game. Well, it narrows them down to the queens on defense, as any sort of aggression is entirely reliant on somehow hiding from the Overlord, or the Oracle, or the Adept. They're now making Moracles now. He hasn't yet gone up to Foracles, as they've written in the Loracles. There's plenty of deplorable builds out there, though. Shady Bunch had it out. Blink. Quick Blink on the way. No Forge. And got his extra gateway pretty quickly in the main. Trying to feign some aggression with 3 adepts. But I expect a gateway explosion. It's pretty clear Zoun wants to get something done early. Ideally before Reynor is able to build up a critical mass of those units. You don't want to let Reynor get enough Zerglings to start doing counterattacks, because it only goes downhill from there. Oracles glide by the queens. We'll shut them down, and in fact, get off my... Susan, you had it. No, we don't have high ground. We can't fly. I knew you'd throw that in my face. No, sorry. Overlord taken out, spots the Twilight, 4 more gates, Forge on the way. But Zoun is still building probes. So it seems like he, 1, knows he's been scouted, and 2, realizes Reynor's probably going to have the unit count to defend it. So, is shifting into a more long-winded style, definitely involving some upgrades, maybe even a 4th base. Keeping Reynor guessing, as Reynor's building drones and Zerglings. He's not exactly sure. He knows what he's dealing with, but the magnitude of the Stalkers, the timing, the upgrades, that is what he still doesn't know. So, the stasis. Enough Zerglings caught that without the queens, actually blunks forward. Things getting a little weird here, as Reynor builds another couple rounds of Zerglings. Infestation bit on the way already. I believe he had an Ultralisk cavern in the last game, but just never found an opportunity to use it. Not that I think it would have been a good idea, but it is a fun idea, and that's what's important. I mean, winning is also important, arguably, in these competitive tournaments, but maybe having fun is winning. No, I didn't. Zergling counter on the 4th. Nothing back at home to defend the queen. Taking a pounding, as we all know she can. 1 Zergling, or 1 Stalker caught by the stasis lings. But denying the 4th base, a very important part of this, as Reynor now has a hive on the way and a 4th hatchery completed. So he's going to have +1 melee as well. The Stalkers come back. A couple of them blink forward. Actually going to lose 3 or 4 Stalkers. Whoa, okay. That was worth it. Kind of surprising to see those losses. No, 44 Zerglings finally takes out that 2nd Oracle, which has been on the edge. Well, can't get repaired, so ends up going down. Thankfully, no Terrans here to repair otherwise. Mainly nest on the way, roach speed. Notably, no Hydra Den. Oh no. You can't just go... Well, if there was ever a time to just go Ultras, I have a feeling this is just going to be mass Zergling and roaches with adrenal glands, but if there was ever a time to go for the Ultras, Zoun does not have a... He just finished his robotics facility. Has no immortals. And there's the Ultralisk cavern. Again. And adrenal glands as well, but a more effective timing than we've seen at any point in the series. As Zoun doesn't have the unit count to keep Reynor entirely back at home. Dozens of Zerglings headed north to deal with the Zealots. The Zealots may be able to cancel the hatch. They do, but the Zerglings will finish them off from there. Stasis. More Zealots coming up. It's +1 attack on either side. Adrenal gland still a while out. Zealot counterattack. Ripped to shreds, I say. Baneling speed completed. No Banelings yet, though. Zoun getting a bit strung out here as the queens come down to make sure that everything goes according to plan. The plan being murdering as many Protoss as possible. 2 Ultras on the way. +2 melee attack. +1 Carapace. So, Reynor needs to make sure he doesn't lose a critical mass of units. He can't just go Ultras. They are the biggest target you could build. and are easily targeted down by stalkers. You need the Zerglings underneath, ideally with adrenal glands, which he's going to have. +2 melee and +1 carapace already on point. Reynor at 83 drones. Zoun 75 probes. He's got 10 gateways. So a solid position right now. Ultralisk drop. Is that what we're doing? No. Overlord speed. He's going to try to make the Dropper Lords happen yet again. The Zerglings overrunning. The Archon's not done quite yet. Storm not even researched, nor begun. The Archon's finishing will be enough to drive back the Zerglings. Zealot counterattack at the 6 o'clock base. Should be able to shut it down. The Ultras joining with the north side. The Dropper Lords are completed. What's he going to jam in there? Are you really going to put an Ultra and a Dropper Lord? Which just seems uncomfortable for everyone involved. The Zerglings maybe queens. The Ultras chewing up the Zealots. The Zerglings helping out. Has to cancel another hatchery. More Zealots. Intercepted by the Zerglings. And Zoun is not finding any success here. He hasn't been able to really deny Reynor's economy. He hasn't built up that Deathball army. He doesn't have an answer to the Ultras knocking on his door. So right now, Reynor's gonna start busting it down. The Zerglings loaded up into the Overlords, headed for the main. 9 probes dead so far. Zealot warp into the main base of Reynor as the Queens come back to defend, but get cut off on a move command. The top left base will be taken down by Zoun. The spawning pool itself, from whence most of these units are built, will be taken out. But the 4th base will get ripped apart by the Ultras and Zerglings. More Zerglings dropping in the 3rd. In the main army from Zoun either needs to be recalled or go for the base trade. Another attack. Those Zealots loaded up into the War Prism, working on the 3rd base. More probes slaughtered. Oracle getting damage done. 4th base overrun for both sides. They're going to be down to 2 bases and almost no economy. But look at the supply. There's almost nothing left for Zoun. The Oracle was the only thing keeping the Ultra at bay. Some Immortals are coming out, but it's 164 supply to just 87. More Ultras are popping out. Reynor has decided that today he's going to build Ultras against Protoss or die trying. And he died twice. But nobody stops Reynor from building Ultras 3 times in a row. Zoun with his last attack, +3 ground weapons about to complete. This is still a scary Protoss army, but he only has 2 Immortals, and he's up against 10 Ultralisks. They have tightness plating. He actually didn't get Ultra speed. So, the Zerglings, just stalkers on the other side. Gonna try to work on the Ultras, +3 melee attack. These are fully upgraded El Chapo Lisks. I take it back. He doesn't have +3 carapace, but close enough. More probes incidentally slaughtered. Much more methodically at the natural. The Zerglings break through. There's an Ultra in the base. I think he finally did it. Dropped an Ultra in, and now the Stalkers will be cloven in twain. And this series as well. All tied up. 2-2. Reynor. He makes it happen. It wasn't particularly clean, but you know what? For an Ultralisk game, that's about as clean cut as it gets. As I'm not sure if more than 1 or 2 Ultras died. Zoun unable to find any early success and ends up getting chopped to pieces. Not exactly sure what went wrong. It was just Reynor figured out what he was going for and how to shut it down, and carved enough space for himself to do so with ease. So, all tied up. We seem evenly matched here. Though Zoun clearly struggling in the earlier game. Reynor very clearly struggling in the later one. I don't think they're helpless at that stage, but I think they're both kind of set in their style and aren't really adapting too much to their opponents. So that means there's a timer on most of the games so far. And once we pass a certain composition is when Reynor starts to drop off dramatically. But dramatically it will be. And drop as well. That was profound, right? Like and subscribe. We're on Amygdala. One of our more dramatic maps. Very long rush distance until the Zerg rocks and other rocks are taken down. Those obstacles, quite difficult to deal with early. Now, does Zoun head back for the Armada? That's the question. As it's worked out, Reynor has not come up with an answer to just kind of shooting up the tech tree to Storm and Sky Toss. But it does feel pretty map dependent. It's one of my favorite and also the most frustrating parts of watching Reynor. Is he's so good, he can almost make any unit composition work. But there are some hard limits to things like Ultralisks. One, no matter how large they are, they still can't hit air units. Two, there's a plethora of counters. The units that Protoss already wants to build in the late game, Tempests, Immortals, Archons, are already very good counters to the Ultras. But quantity has a quality all its own, and that's really your best option for making things happen with them. Stargate, on the way. 5 for 5 so far. Not really surprising, the Stargate is the multi-tool for Protoss, because if you don't go Stargate, one, you don't get reliable scouting. Two, you might actually die to early game Zerg units just walking across the map. Sure, if they don't attack, you could be in a good spot with like an Immortal build or something. But it's been worked out over many, 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 many series that having the Stargate, and even just building a couple units out of it, is still much better than having a rush to tech more quickly. If only because not building the Stargate gives away that you're going for that tech to the Zerg. Void Ray first is the choice. Adept shading across. Or shading back, rather. Already shaded across, of course. Void Ray, ready to light up the Overlord. Takes it out. Handful of Zerglings. In position to deny the third base right on time. The Void Ray will be tasked with dealing with them. Politely yet firmly. Ask him to leave. And now, what's next? He's built the Oracle after the first Void Ray. Building a couple more pylons. And now we see what the follow-up is. Twilight Council. No second Void Ray yet. Forge as well. So just weaving into the Blink +1. As opposed to more Void Rays early on. Almost certainly Blink if he doesn't invest any more gas in Void Rays. That's part of the reason the Charge was the choice. It's just generally good. But Blink Stalkers have a lot more potential. Charge lots are a bit of a jackhammer, whereas the Blink Stalkers are more of a crowbar. But it looks like we're jackhammering again. Get your hard hats on. Robotics facility on the way, and Charge is in production. Zoun mixing and matching these early timings. And now coming out with a new one. We got more gates in production. Robotics facility is nearly completed. Maybe he gets an Immortal or two, but I'd be kind of surprised if we don't start with a Warp Prism and head across the map with it. Layers on the way for Reynor. +1 melee attack is the choice. About the same timing as the +1 ground weapons out of Zoun. Observer first, and the Templar Archives behind. This has to be for Archons, right? Reynor 62 drones. Zoun about to go to 62 himself. We'll see if either player cuts workers at 66, which is full 3-base saturation, 22 apiece. The mind games are pretty heavy here. Reynor doesn't want to cut drones early because that could just cause more pain later on. Starts a Spire. Is he going? I think it's almost certain he's going Mutas. All right. Against this sort of style. So, I think Reynor correctly realizing that there's no Stargate follow-up. The Blink Stalkers would have already showed up. So it's a much heavier ground-based attack. And even though Archons are clearly good against Mutas, it's unlikely that he will realize the Spire is on the way. And by the time the Mutas are across the map, it's already too late to build Phoenixes. So, wow, 4 Archons. And he's warping in more Templar. A full-on Charge Lot Archon attack. A Charcon attack. Down, maybe overdoing it on the pylons, but you can always construct additional. Roach speed is about to complete. A very important part of dealing with this. He needs a bit of maneuverability, otherwise the Archons will just power through. Void Ray stasis. Oh my. Oh. Okay, got taken out. That could have been a game-winning stasis if it lasted just half a second longer. 6 Mutas in production. And honestly, well, he's building a cannon at the third. There's nothing here that gives away this is Mutas. There's plenty of roaches on the field. Reynor has a 4th base. The Zerg rocks finally taken down. 8-minute mark is when they usually time out. Changeling in the main. Oh, he spots the Spire! 7 Mutas already popping out, though. Down. You saw the Spire. You saw the Spire. Yeah. Mutas are on the way. There is no blink. He's not building any Phoenixes. So I don't know if he registered it. Because sitting in the middle of the map, nowhere near your bases, building no Phoenixes is not the best way to deal with Mutas. Now he's building the Phoenixes. The alarm bells are ringing. But the Roaches are coming in to draw the army out of position. Mutas and Lings looking to overrun the third. +1 melee done on the Zerglings, so if they're able to get a wraparound on the Stalkers, clearly a great counter, but the Roaches and Ravagers are the real threat. The Mutas are just what helps pry things open. And the Zerglings at the back, corrosive vials raining down, just scattering them. The Phoenixes in the main will help out. Void Ray lit up, actually targeting the Phoenix. Micro's back, might be able to get away with the first one. Really important not to lose that, as now the Mutas are going to be able to find some more damage. Zoun actually doing a surprisingly good job of holding. Between the charge lots, the Void Ray almost taken out by the Ravagers, but the Mutas are still going to work. Blink is only a third of the way done, but Reynor's supply has actually dipped precipitously now. Zoun still with 69, a nice amount of probes to fall back to, considering Reynor does not have a hive on the way. His economy is not so high he can easily tech up and produce simultaneously. The Mutas come back for more, but a single Phoenix and a second one on the way should be enough to zone this out. The timing Mutas have been mostly dealt with, and Zoun now has an army that's worthy of respect, though the Archons have been removed from it. The Archons would be more than enough to power through, but without them, it really comes down to the numbers. +2 ground weapons about to complete, trying to fight. Archon merged in. Another Archon on the way, and he's finished +2 now. Blink coming up. Baneling speed about to complete mid-fight. The Roaches and Ravagers knocks into the Zealots with the Banelings, softening many of them up. The Mutas come back around. Reynor suddenly in a precarious position. The Archon should be taken down momentarily. Doesn't actually target it, still getting extra hits off. A red HP Archon. Not something you see every day. Mutas will finally take down the Void Ray. More charge lots coming up. It feels like Reynor is slowly but surely consolidating his position. The Mutas, he's actually adding more Mutas on. Reynor's been mining off 4 bases to Zoun's 3. And there's no storm to fall back to. If he had energy recharge and storm, that would certainly be helpful. The Phoenix count isn't high enough to really be very helpful on the ground either. Or against the ground units, like picking up Ravagers. More mutas on the way for Reynor, as he wants to swing around again. It's unlikely Zoun will reinvest or invest in Phoenixes any further until he sees those mutas. And by then it might already be too late. A huge wave of Banelings loading up outside the third base. And he's cooking right now. The oven hasn't quite finished. But once it does... Actually, this is very awkward. The Archons are in an amazing spot to deal with this. Beautiful spread. Enough Banelings will trickle through. And the probes! 16 probes! And the mutas as well. He was on very thin ice, and he falls right through. Reynor takes the lead. Well, the muta's doing enough. Reynor with another classic Zerg tactic manages to turn it around and take the lead for the first time in the series. We're going to Whispers of Gold, though. Another spicy map. Definitely not a late-game turtle map, but instead, something much more aggressive. With both players jammed in, the relatively small rush distance. We'll see. Reynor taking his first game. Again. No, it was the same thing again. I was, trying to be dramatic, like Reynor finally managing to beat Zoun before he gets that Death Ball army. Except that's happened 3 times in 3 different ways. So far, Sky Tosser died trying for Zoun. The Zerg army overrunning him on the ground. The Muta choice was beautiful there. A risk, but it pays off. If it got scouted earlier, then it's such a huge investment. That's why you don't see mutas on a very frequent occasion. One, because most players are not Reynor and have 700 APM. And also because there's such a window to deal with them. If you get 2-3 Phoenixes by the time the mutas show up, you've wasted 1,000 plus gas. And the Phoenixes are still useful after they kill the mutas. But if they completely blindside the Protoss, that can be exactly what you need to keep them busy until you can just, you know, break down everything else. Well. Quite a series. No early pulls, no cannon rushes, not even ye old adept glaives all in. I've seen those charge lots, and it looked dangerous for a little while, but probe following the drone down. Follow me home. Can I keep it? No attempt at a quick third base. It's all the devil's in the details. So far, when it comes to players, well, Zoun finished his military service, I believe, a few months ago. I don't think it was much longer, but a few months ago. And by and large, most players either choose not to come back to Pro SC2 because taking a break, even if you're playing, which in many cases they can still play, they just can't play in tournaments. It's not like they're cut off from the world for a year plus, but coming back is difficult. And also, honestly, it's a true testament to Zoun's passion, because right now there's unfortunately quite literally 0 tournaments planned for Korean StarCraft 2. The Global StarCraft League, which I've always felt was kind of a misnomer considering it was 95% Koreans, but for a while that was most of the top pro players. But I digress. As of right now, we don't know if there will be another GSL season. You know, a regular competitor, but otherwise, we have our online tournaments. But coming back at this time and committing, and clearly still at a very high level, or back to a very high level, shows that he's very committed and interested in playing. Oh, so credit to him there, for sure. And so far, another part of that is any player that like takes a break or isn't kind of beholden to the meta for a while sometimes can come up with a fresh perspective. Sometimes you play better after not playing for weeks. Or at least, maybe not mechanically, but you're willing to try new ideas and new strategies or adjustments that you would have thought just didn't work before. Or hadn't even thought of. And we're seeing that here in the triple Void Ray style, the way he's handling the mid-game. Now, it hasn't worked out against Raider's mechanically near-perfect Zerg, especially when it comes to fighting like mid-game versus mid-game, but anything past that has clearly been a decisive success. Adepts and Zealots. Enough. The SimCity perfect. Blocks out the base. Just straight to charge lots. Alright? Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 minerals. Straight to... Well, that would be helpful to go mass charge lot, but... Oracle lights up. It's not going to... He doesn't even have the gases on the... It's clearly... Oh, did he fake it for the Overlord? He took this gas geyser where the Overlord was, but did not mine it at all, and the Overlord was taken out. Now he's adding it on. Wait, why is he mining this one? He's barely mining and he gets 6 gateways. Well, here we go. He only has 42 probes. He's transferring it feels like he's laying it on real thick here. He transfers some of his few probes. He's really tried to sell the idea. He has these probes because he's not mining gas. I think Reynor's figuring that out now, but... And now the charge lots are revealed. But the Warp Prism is on the way. 4 gates, with 3 more finishing up. It should be about 8 gates at the end of things, but... Alright. Reynor does not have roach speed on the way. He's up to 61 drones. 5 roaches is not ideal when it comes to defenses. And Brenda! Hold me, Susan. It's all over. The evolution chamber actually locks in the roaches. I think there's a tiny gap they can slip out, so... And another evolution chamber. But the Protoss will rip down this wall. And the Roach Warren itself dying, which is certainly not ideal. Trying to set up speed bumps for the charge lots, but they're just sprinting right past them. And I'm not sure who the Zerg player is here, considering what's happening in the main base. The Zealotlings overrunning the Roaches and Queens. The drones have to be pulled. There's still the Void Ray going to work. If the Queens are all taken out, there's nothing left to contest it. He just keeps warping in charge lots. 21 drones slaughtered. And there's more on the agenda. Zoun just slicing right through Reynor. A Spore Crawler is coming up. The drones on the run. GG. We're going to game number 7. Well... Reynor, completely blindsided, or at least was bamboozled enough to be caught off guard. I think he actually got fooled by the probe transfer. The probe transfers early at the 3rd, pulling the probes from gas geysers, which you don't need to make charge lots. Setting up to the 3rd like, oh, he's really macroing hard. He's chrono boosting those probes out. I gotta make drones. No. But by the time he realized the danger he was in, it was far too late. So, we're going to the decider. El Dorado. So, pretty sure that Neon Violet Square was vetoed by Reynor, which leaves Frostline vetoed by Zoun. Makes sense. Big, wide open base is very hard to ever take a 4th base. El Dorado, definitely a Game 7 feeling map for sure. Based on Golden Wall, one of the most creative maps of old. One of those maps that players kind of hate, but makes for some much more entertaining games because you can't just do whatever your build order you've practiced 174 times in the last week on the ladder is. You have to adjust it slightly. I guess you could, but it doesn't usually work out that well because of the close air distance, because of the fact that potentially they could mine through your mineral wall. There's a lot of options for shenanigans. In Reynor, no gas at all to start. That's the direction he's taken. Meanwhile, Zoun. Not an exit. Wait, okay. Gate expand. Will he deviate from the Stargate? I don't see any reason you do so. Like, of all maps, this is not the map to reinvent the wheel and come up with a, I don't know, a staircase. That's not how you climb the ladder. Just pretend that made sense. Like and subscribe. Queen's on the way. When you got nothing else to say, just read the production tab. All right? Just fill that in. It'll buy you some time. Before the Stargate begins. There it is. 7 for 7. Four Zerglings on the way. Quite an exhausting series. Late game, early game, mid game. Good games. I hope you've enjoyed. If we were going to go back to... Now is the time to go back to the Sky Toss. I think you can get away with it on this map. Reynor, I'm sure, very aware of it, but Reynor almost has that mental block when it comes to dealing with the Sky Toss. Even when he's in a pretty good position. All right, we're going Ultras. Nobody puts the Adept in the corner. Well, besides the Adept, but he checked to see if Reynor had taken out the mineral wall and was working on that base. It's still intact, which gives it away, at least for now. Void Ray behind. Oracle into Void Ray. Ah, a new sequence. New strands unfolding. We'll be able to take out the Overlord and deny any further scouts. But the Overlord, of course, has already glided through all of it. It's got to be Twilight, right? And then you beg the question whether it's Charge or Blink, but maintaining as much ambiguity as possible, keeping them guessing, is at least 50% of the effectiveness of any sort of follow-up strategy, so... 2 more gases on the way. And he hasn't started a Twilight yet, which is becoming very suspicious. It was mildly suspicious, but the threat level is approaching midnight. Queen's ambling around. There's a second Void Ray. Forge. And a Twilight behind. So we'll get the Tri-Void plays. A little bit later on. Actually, the same amount of time. An Oracle and 3 Void Rays still take the same amount of time, no matter when you build them. Assuming you Chrono Boost the same amount, so... That was kind of dumb. I never said I was good at math. Count on that. Roach Warren and Lair on the way. Evolution Chamber. Reynor just hedging his bets yet again. Zergling taken out, but the Shady Bunch in the third completes the shade. Recalls out. And meanwhile, in the main base, the Queens almost taken out, but Void Rays just don't have that sort of DPS. Templar Archives, he's skipped, he's not even getting any Twilight upgrades. I mean, he's likely going to get charged, but skip straight to Templar. Zoun again. Taking a break to consult the Prima strategy guide and make sure he knows which direction he's going. We don't wait for anyone here. Storm on the way. A rush to Storm. And then charge behind. I feel like he could have gotten the charge beforehand either way. But I digress. It's a matter of principle. Oracle. Take that. Slaps down the Revelation. Void Rays light up on the 4th. And the Queens. Get a move on, Brenda! I'm moving as fast as I can! You move the same speed! Yes, but you're ahead of me, so this is your fault. Is that what they mean by scapegoat? Oh, Templar! Templar! Forced to merge into Archons. Quite a big pickoff, and giving away the fact... Oh! There's a bunch of Roaches and Ravagers, and now the Queens are on the way across! And without Storm done, does he have energy recharge? He used it, I think, either on an Oracle or a Sentry, but it's on cooldown. And the Queens are marching across the map. Storm is not done. We've arrived! Some basic anti-air. He breaks down the wall, and the Zerglings are streaming into the main. The Queens, all of them headed across the map. Reynor held on to it for 7 games, but in game 7, pulls out the Soul Scroll, and the Queens are ambling across the map. The Overlord's also trying to help. 8 probes dead in the main. The Twilight Council actually being targeted, but there's no storms. The Templar immediately merging into Archons. The Queen's starting to be whittled down. 11 probes dead. Reynor doesn't have a massive economy behind this. The Ravagers come out of stasis, and the Scattered Corrosive Bile will help take out the shield batteries. And, well, there's only 1 Queen left for anti-air, which is a bit of a precarious situation for this attack. But with the Corrosive Bile, he's able to continually zone out the Void Rays. There's nothing stopping him from getting into the natural. That last Queen. 1 Queen to rule them all. A Creep Tumor on the way. He wants to target that Creep Tumor, I'm sure, but he also wants to target everything else, ideally, before he gets overrun. But Zoun is down 100 supply, and he kills the last Queen. But at what cost? The damage is done. And after 7 games, Reynor again breaks into Zoun's base, and there isn't enough of an answer. The Archon's trying to hold, but Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. Again, the gateways will be opened up. No more gatekeeping for Zoun. The Void Ray's trying, but the force field's broken. The Queen's reinforcing across the map. The Ravagers morphing in the natural. Zoun fighting to the bitter end, but it is the end. There's no way out. Reynor, GG. Reynor takes the series 4 games to 3. An exhausting experience. Over an hour and a half, but Reynor saved the most comprehensive aggression until the final game. And Zoun just caught a little flat foot. He had 30 seconds off Storm. If he has the Storms by the first attack, well, I think we'd be looking at a much longer game at the very least. But Reynor breaks through and takes the series. Well, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. And thank you for watching. If you got the means and motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. Thank you to our Mule tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Door came Mario in. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. at least for now. So, thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Congratulations to Reynor. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill. Edit that out, Jimmy. Oh my god, that was bad. We get so close.